Save tonight and fight the break of dawn. Come tomorrow, tomorrow I'll be gone. These words from my favorite song, Save Tonight, reminds us how short life is, how we should say what is on our heart, and how we should always hear what people say to capture the moment. Or as the song says, save tonight and fight the break of dawn. Hello, my name is Chuck Black. I use he, him pronouns, and I've been coming to First U since November 2020, but I first started attending Unitarian churches in the fall of 2012 when I lived in central Pennsylvania. It is an honor to be serving as your worship leader today. I took some years away from church when I lived in a small town that did not have a Unitarian church because the idea of virtual church in 2012 just did not sound logical to me. Oh, how quickly that changed when I moved here to Center City right after the 2020 presidential election. Not like anything else was happening at that time. And I was looking for ways to connect. Our church's weekly Zooms were a huge part of my pandemic survival and allowed me not only to feel grounded, but to feel heard. This church community is a huge part of why I have not backtracked on my decision to move to Philly. And please know your radical love means so much to so many people, including myself. Since joining this church officially in March of 2021, I have been able to be a part of something greater than myself. I have led 2 Heartcheck groups, which showed me how we practice hearing what people have to say, speaking from our heart, and truly living out our first value of the inherent worth and dignity of every person. I am thankful for this home. My identity and my story includes that I'm a political consultant and an educator, a PhD student at Temple, and a proud Philadelphian. I'm also a person who stutters, and I'm a fierce advocate for people living with disabilities, having recently been named to Mayor Kenny's Commission on People Living with Disabilities. Sometimes words... Okay. Thank you. Sometimes words don't work for me, including today, and I've learned over the years how to navigate that challenge. Living here in this city has allowed me to find a community of stutterers through the National Stuttering Association, and I've been honored to share my story with many of them. I can't imagine how different my life would be when I grew up in central Pennsylvania if I had a group of people who talked like me. To be transparent, I walked out of speech therapy in middle school because I felt ashamed and I didn't think it was helping me. I told my grandmother that I was fine with how God made me, and she accepted that. That's not to diminish the amazing work of speech therapists, but this is my truth. To be honest, I still struggle with it even today, even in my 30s. When someone, especially someone who I thought was a true ally or a potential date, smirks when I stutter or tries to finish my sentences, my boss did that once, I still get frustrated and even ashamed of myself. I am working on it, and I'm thankful for the support system I have here. As an educator who has taught communication to graduate students, many of them who English is not their first language, one of my greatest lessons to students is this idea of listening first. Are we hearing and receiving the messages that others are trying to communicate to us? Like most of us, if not all of us, here or on Zoom, I have faced discrimination for being different. I once had an OM coach try to take away speaking lines in a timed competition because she was afraid of that my stuttering would take up unnecessary time. After standing up to her, not only did I keep my lines, but we went on to place top at the state competition and went on to compete at the world finals. There's also an elected official in my hometown that once commented how I talk is an embarrassment. I don't know if she ever realized what she said in public was wrong and hurtful, but you know what? I forgive her because as a Unitarian, I believe in the worth of every person, and I understand she might not know my full story. I also want to acknowledge how my own privilege has shaped me, because sometimes it can be hard to see it from the perspective of others. As a white-skinned person, I won't know what it's like to face discrimination in this country for the color of my skin. Listening first has allowed me to hear and empathize more after I experienced being with my good friend, Emily, who's a person of color, when she was followed by a store clerk in a fancy store for no reason at all beyond the color of her skin. I felt so much anger and fear, and those moments of listening to her have helped me to be a better ally. As a queer person whose family knew and accepted my sexual orientation before I did, listening first has helped me to hear, empathize, and be a better ally to friends and loved ones who were scared to come out of the closet, or who, worse, have been kicked out of their homes for being who they are. As a cisgender man, listening first has allowed me to hear, empathize, and be a better ally when I have watched and experienced watching the double standards and harassment faced by transgender women and men, even right here in an open-minded place like Philly. Listening and empathizing are important, but taking action is how we change the world. But today's not about me or my story. It's about our story, our community, and how we can help others be heard. As we know, not everything has a fairy tale ending, and not every voice is heard. Anger and fear is a real thing that we all cope with, but we can change how we view the world when we listen to the experiences of others. Water break. Let's take a few minutes to consider how some of our neighbors and fellow Philadelphians are not always heard. As I prepared for the service, I had the great honor of sitting down with fellow UU Sonia to hear more about the First U decarceration team. This team focuses on engaging our congregation against mass incarceration. Sonia made the point to me, we are most successful in meeting people where they're at, which hits home the point of our service. This team is working hard to organize our people, celebrate the wins, and build power. The decarceration team helps us to live out our values in honoring the true worth and dignity of all. Prisons try to separate us because they keep people in and they keep people out. But we know here that society can benefit from our people being free. In my discussion with Sonia, she shared many stories about great partners in this work, including the Coalition to Abolish Death by Incarceration, which works to end life without parole. Through rallies, organizing, letter writing, and more, we are listening first and uplifting voices. I asked her for some advice on how people on the inside of a prison can advocate for themselves, and she explained to me the importance of sharing writings and stories. There have been rallies where those incarcerated have been allowed to call in to be heard, and even some have planned their own events where those on the outside have helped make these events happen. Sonia emphasized to me the importance of supporting versus doing what we think is best, and truly listening first is the first step to doing this. Our congregation here at First U has the power to keep changing the world, and we shouldn't take that power lightly. The team, before the pandemic, brought people together from First U to rally in front of Attorney General Josh Shapiro's office prior to a Board of Pardons hearing. Voices were heard to explain to him what justice means to them and why he should support more commutations to help bring our people home. When he's listened, more people have been granted pardons. We have to make sure people are heard, and we should never forget that our most powerful organizing tool that we all have is the power of listening. I am proud of the work we're doing on these important issues. Another area where we as Unitarian, I like that comment, Bernie. Another area where we as Unitarians are doing amazing at listening first is around comprehensive sex education. This has always been important, but the climate today and the horrific ruling this summer by our Supreme Court has reminded us why this matters. The great Reverend William Sinkford once said, "Most churches would not welcome a conversation around sex ed, but you do. And it's because we have a deep understanding that our faith, our religious life, needs to be grounded in real life experiences. That, in some senses, is the heart of our faith." What I hear from the great Reverend is that we have to listen first and then act. Our people, our church knows that comprehensive sex education matters, and it's something we must provide when our institutions are trying to rip it away. There are several ideas and programs around the idea of listening first. We know listening can be difficult, and it can sometimes be uncomfortable if we hear things we don't want to hear or we don't understand. I know that I'm someone, and my family didn't stand up, but my family's in the back. My family can vouch for this. Sometimes I react instead of taking the time to digest what is being said, to breathe and to listen first. I'm working on that. I know we're all working on it, and I think listening first is a transformative idea that can take years, even longer, to learn and embrace. But I would argue that this idea is worth it if others can be heard and we can further spread the radical love of our church. Living our values means that we might sometimes be uncomfortable. Let me repeat that. Living our values means that we might experience discomfort, and that, my friends, is okay. I believe it is our calling to listen, to speak from our heart, and truly embrace the value of the inherent worth and dignity of all people. Nobody, and I mean nobody, deserves to feel ignored or unheard. I know that I feel broken if I feel ignored or unheard, especially by people that claim to love me or love this world. Words matter, listening matters, following through matters. But I'll save the following through part for another day. Friends, if we're gonna save tonight and fight the break of dawn so we can embrace living in the now together, we must listen first because words don't always work. The practice and idea of listening first is worth it because we can continue to show respect for the interdependent web of existence that which we're all a part. Words don't always work, and they don't need to work and don't always need to be used. Let's keep listening first. May it be so. Amen.
Hi, I'm Reverend Hannah Capaldi.
And I'm Reverend Abby Tennis. We are the ministers at the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, where our mission is to awaken love and justice in our lives and in the world.
We're so grateful that you watched, and we hope that the sermon connected with your soul.
We also want to invite you to join us for a live worship service every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can always find the link to that service on our website at www.philauu.org. In these services, you'll hear words like you've just heard, and you also get a chance to greet one another, pray together, sing together, and we even hold a virtual coffee hour after services to get a chance to greet some new and old friends.
If you want to support the mission of this community and you feel moved to give, you can do so by going to the website that Reverend Abby just mentioned. You can find that link below, or you can text 215-709-5095 and follow the prompts to give.
If someone in your life needs to hear these words today, we encourage you to share this video. And again, thank you so much for watching.
We hope to see you soon.